I
in those
hear that a
situations?
lot where, "Oh, hey, our persona's not online," or "Our persona's not gonna be in this area." More and more, I don't believe that's true.
Welcome back, everybody. It's Quickfire Marketing. I'm your host, ET Mac. Got a very, very special guest today. SEO, SEM, digital ads, Leon. So it's end of the year. We're getting close to it. I want to get into something that I keep hearing that annoys a lot of executives. And I just think they just don't have full context or clarity, but they probably see the damage to their bank account. And that's ad fatigue. We know who we want. We know the ICP. We just aren't getting them to click on our ads. And we're wasting money, tens of thousands of dollars a month.
So, ad fatigue and then also getting people to click, they all kind of run in the
Yeah.
same circle. Especially, like I like to say for everything is humans, myself included, are goldfish. We've got like an 8 to 10-second attention span, and you've got to capture them with a really good hook. So just like SEO and other digital marketing, always have to remember that there's a really good hook and there's a really good offer in some capacity. So if you're out there advertising, request a demo, you might get a bluebird here and there to come and fill it out, but you're going to have a hard time getting people to click on that offer because nobody wants to be sold to initially. They want to look at a webinar, they want to look at some sort of content that's going to allow them to learn something, see that the company that they're talking to is expert, but also see like use cases and how it could offer value. Now, that ties into actually getting people to click, but on the ad fatigue part is you can't just run a webinar 24/7, 65 days a year. There's a lot of effort into cycling them out. So every 3 to 4 months, having new ads cycled in make a really big difference. And even small changes, like I've seen folks go from a yellow background to a blue background to a purple background, and those ads keep improving and improving. It's the same exact message, same exact webinar, but to that goldfish, they're like, "Oh, I've seen that yellow ad 300 times," but now so it kind of all goes back to, you gotta have a good offer, and then don't say the same thing 300 times over the course of a year.
How do you choose your stick? Because you don't want to stray away too far, right? Like you said, keep the same messaging, but change the colors.
There is so much data coming across. There is click-through rate, there is, impressions, quality scores, there's all these things being fed into there. But if you're looking at this data and you've got somebody to kind of break it down and kind of boil it down for you, you can turn around and say, "Okay, this ad over the past 3 months has just been getting less and less clicks, it's getting less impressions." That's gotta be a signal for maybe ad fatigue or offer fatigue. And then you can turn around and start testing and saying, "Hey, every 4 weeks, let's roll out a new ad." And if that ad is performing better, you turn something else off and then cycle in a new one that's similar, maybe a different color, maybe a different message. They don't have to be really that different.
Going off of that, does localization matter? I always wonder that because in B2C,
Yeah.
it's cool. Like I always think to like Shanko being the best because they hurt my feelings when I found out they were like a nationwide brand because I thought it was just in the California Bay Area.
Localization does matter in the sense of a global perspective. So if you have a United States company, you're advertising in the United States, from New York to California, there's not that big of a difference or cultural shift. Like I know there's some cultural differences there, but it's not that big. But if you go from the United States
Mhm.
to Mexico, localization in that perspective does come into play where you want to start thinking about native language. You want to maybe start thinking of what rules and regulations do they have, privacy and all of that. So there's some localizations in those perspective. But in B2B world, I would call localization more messaging to a specific company. So a lot of times that might be industry specific. That might actually be a one or two companies in particular. And that's more of an account-based marketing where your sales folks put together a list and say, "Hey, we're going to go after all these food and beverage companies." You can start messaging them and also tailor that message to say, "Hey, food and beverage companies, we know cybersecurity is a really important perspective. You might not think about it, and most people don't say it, but you can talk about cybersecurity in a food and bev perspective and be able to have a localization to that, but it's in a
Mhm.
business to business conversation.
So all these changes, it all sounds like, hey, quick fixes, but in reality, what people don't get if they don't enter this world is it's time, right?
Google ads, LinkedIn ads, there's an immediacy towards it because just like on an SEO perspective, you write a blog article 6 to 8 months down the road, you might see some clicks and some impact. But when you're spending money, you get in front of people's faces fairly quickly. You need enough data to make a decision. So you got 10 clicks and you're like, hey, our click through rate's 10%. That's not enough data to make a decision. But if you've got 100 clicks and you've got a 10% click through rate, that's enough data. So what I'm trying to get at is it depends a little bit based on your spend. So if you're spending $100,000 a month, testing can go 1,000 times faster because you've got all that spend, all of those impressions, and you're able to shove a lot more stuff into it. It also means, a lot more effort to kind of keep testing and staying on top of that. On the flip side, if you're spending maybe five to $10,000 a month, there is a longer push to it because if you've got a number of campaigns out there and each campaign's maybe getting $1,000 to $2,000 a month, and your cost per click is $20, you're only going to get so many impressions and so many clicks. So you might have to look at a 3 month period. The part that I will say on that is if you're testing for 90 days, 3 months, you have kind of a halfway point to say, hey, is this heading in the right direction? Is that data's, in the right direction? Do we get a conversion? Are we getting clicks? And then you can kind of say, hey, this campaign's working, this is not, let's pivot.
If you're on the lower end of the budget scale, in like the five tens of thousands, do priorities
Yeah.
change? Because I feel like at a higher number, right, like you can kind of get away. Like we're assuming if you're spending 100K plus, you probably have higher quality content, you have enough. But at the 5 and 10, maybe you're a newer company or just a lower
So
budget company.
strategy is totally different. Depending on the type of company you are, that could be, a 7 day process to 7 month process. The big part to that is on a $10,000 budget, you're not going to be doing as much brand awareness, brand prospecting. We're going to spend for the fact that we need to bring our brand presence up. On the lower end, a lot more is, did we get a lead? Was that lead qualified? Did it make it to MQL status, the marketing qualified? And then did it make it to sales qualified? Oftentimes that's as kind of far as a marketing and my perspective can make it. I do want to see, which ones are making it to revenue, but much more of it is focused on, did somebody get in and did we convert?
Here's a crazy question. What if you have a limited budget and maybe the personas you're targeting aren't readily available online? Maybe they're like top flight cybersecurity experts, right? Where they're a little more hidden. How do you get in front of them
I
in those
hear that a
situations?
lot where, oh hey, our persona's not online or our persona's not going to be in this area. More and more, I don't believe that's true. LinkedIn, for example, there's some surveys out there that 70% of buyers consider LinkedIn their most trusted source. They might not actively have really cool profiles or optimized, but they're probably there in some capacity lurking. Same thing on the Google side. Every single person in this world has Googled before, and they are probably Googling for what you're selling.
Mhm.
The part is you got to figure out where that watering hole is a little bit, and sometimes that is difficult. The default watering hole, more than likely for 99% of businesses, is going to start at Google. And then on the competitor stuff, you have to make it clear that, hey, you're not that competitor, but you've got a better solution. It's maybe cheaper, maybe it's more affordable. But Google almost always is going to have a subset of those users, even if everybody says they're offline. I hear it a lot when people say they're selling stuff to trades, to roofers, to any sort of journeyman. They're like, oh, they're just not online. And I'm like, that is very fair. They might not have a social profile, they might be on a Facebook, but they will go to Google and search for a way to stop having all of their photos show up in their photo gallery.
Have you heard of
Um,
Shenko? No? Oh my god, dude. If you're in the Bay Area, you grow up, there's this like super monotone voice that comes on. He's like, Shenko, Walnut Creek, Cupertino, Hayward, San Jose. We're here for you.